Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NvTv. Joining me in the studio this evening is Adam Neeson.
Hello, Jim.
And Claire McCullough.
Hello.
Hello to you both. Let's see what we've lined up tonight. We'll be reviewing Lie of the Land, which recently screened at the Belfast Film Festival. We'll be speaking with some of the cast and crew about the award-winning Irish feature. And we'll wrap up by chatting about The Red Shoes, which is back in cinemas as part of the BFI's Powell and Pressburger season. So that's what we've lined up for you this evening. Now, of course, we are going to be reviewing some movies this evening, as any movie review show should do. But a couple of big trailers have broke in the last week since we were on air. Literally after we finished recording the studio here at NvTv last week, the trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the new trilogy, because we can't just have one new film coming out, it has to be the start of a whole new trilogy, has been released. We're going to have a look at the trailer in just a minute. I'm going to come to you first, Adam. You excited for this? Another franchise being brought back, because nothing can end now. If it's seen as viable by a producer, it's going to be back on the big screen. So are you excited about this?
Jim, those monkeys keep on monkeying around. I don't know, really. The last one, I watched the first half an hour off and went, I'll come back to this, and never did. The first two of the newer trilogy were fine. This looks fine. It has a monkey with a big eagle, so I guess I'm in.
Okay, well that's enough to sell you, Adam. We're going to come to you in just a second, Claire, but before we do, let's have a look at the trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So that's a look at the trailer. Claire, you were saying before you came into the studio, I don't think you've seen any of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Unfortunately not.
So, I don't know, I mean, is this trailer enough to sell you? I mean, you've got films going back, I think Adam, you said this might be the 12th installment in the series overall, going back from 1968 with the original, with Charlton Heston. So, if this trailer has piqued your interest, you have a lot of films to go back on. But, initial impressions anyway from just the trailer.
Cinematically, it looks really good. It's full of action, apes, everything anyone could ever want in a film. It does actually look pretty good, but I don't know if I could really deal with the commitment of having to go back 12 films. Is there going to be more?
Of course there's going to be more. I mean, this is the point. I mean, we've had the last kind of series of kind of prequels, I suppose. It's all kind of leading back to the Planet of the Apes, the 1968 movie. I quite liked them. I think it did something quite clever with prequels in that sense that it allowed us to tell the story of Caesar, who we didn't really know that much about. I know in the later installments in the original series, we got to see a bit more. There was time travel and apes coming back to Earth, etc. But I quite like it, particularly the last two that were directed by Matt Reeves. I thought they were pretty solid blockbusters. Here we have this is the start of a new saga, a new series. I don't know. I know you're kind of saying, you've said a wee bit about kind of your thoughts, but your general thoughts at the minute about the fact that we might have another series. We can't just have just one new installment.
Well, if every other franchise is failing, why not go back to the monkeys? Yeah, there is stories to tell there about humanity, like the original Planet of the Apes, even though it's probably known best for its twist. The series is known for, even though they are apes, what makes a human human. So if you want to tell that moral story in modern times, there is stories there to take from, but will people turn up for it? I don't really know.
Well, you mentioned that, and I know we are going to move on to Lie of the Land, but earlier this week as well, we had another trailer for The Marvels, which is out in cinemas this week. We're going to be reviewing it on next week's show. There is a film that is literally, with the latest trailer anyway, I haven't seen it at the point we're recording this evening, that is trying to throw every single thing, bar the kitchen sink, at you to try and get you to go out and see The Marvels. And are you tempted at all to go out and see Brie and Co kick some alien ass?
Well, whenever you put it like that, maybe. But I don't know. I feel like Marvel is complete now. You know, we had Endgame. The new stories that they've brought out just haven't really lived up to how great Endgame was and that whole franchise there. And I feel like they're just throwing stuff at you now. And it might be better if they just kind of gave up.
Well, if the films still make money, they'll still carry on. It's just that they're not making the same levels of money for producers that they were pre-pandemic, and maybe that's just a case of where cinema is right now. Everyone talked, you know, Martin Scorsese kind of talked about them not being cinematic, and kind of the idea of the era of the Western, that it once was seen as the thing for cinema, and then it kind of had its time and went. You know, we are going to move on to something more close to home with Lie of the Land, Adam, but before we do, I know none of us here this evening have seen The Marvels. I don't know, are you going to be seeing it this weekend? Maybe you're going to be forced to go see it. I don't know. You're taken hostage to go see it. I don't know. But, you know, what's your thoughts on kind of where MCU is right now? Does it still have a special place in your heart?
Kinda. As a shill for Marvel, I'll just absorb anything they take out, but there's no excitement with me. Even though I liked Captain Marvel, it's a fine film, and I like those characters. There's nothing really pushing me to go see it. Even with this new trailer, there is teases of cameos and possibly a certain X-Man character. And I just don't care. Like, if I don't care, and I'm a man that spent thousands on Marvel comic books, then what's the general public gonna care?
I think people are just tired of superheroes now.
Hey, I wrote an article many years ago about people suffering comic book fatigue. Check out the BanterFlix website. You'll find I was just ahead of the trend. But look, that's something that we haven't seen. We are going to move on to a film that we have all seen. It recently screened at the Belfast Film Festival. That was Lie of the Land. And just before we share our thoughts here in the studio, early this week I got a chance to speak with the cast and crew at a junket ahead of a screening at the Strand Arts Centre. And here's those interviews.
Doesn't matter what you do. Well, if that's the way you want it.
Having the film, it got its world premiere at Galway.
Lie of the Land is a story that's set in mid-Ulster, and it is about the broken relationship of two farmers and their plans to try and escape their debt. And they've found what they think is a viable way of getting out of their debt, but yet it hasn't actually worked out how they expected.
The radio play was 2012, I believe. It was a BBC Radio 4 radio play. Now that was just the first act of the feature. So then, yeah, it's something I came back to. I was actually doing a course in Dublin in producing, and to make it easy for myself, I used one of my projects that I had very few characters and very few locations. But COVID was a big part of it, because I think during lockdown, like the word home, it became the only place in the world of safety. So it's why the house was such a big part of this film. It's such an evergreen fear to have that space of safety invaded. The radio play is just the first 10 minutes. So from there on in, it's pure cinema. It's pure genre, in my opinion.
I was sent the script end of last October, so about a year ago, and I had to interview for the role of director, and reading the script instantly just went, this is the story I can tell. I have read other scripts before from this scheme, but this is the one that actually struck the chord with me, because I say it's essentially a love story. It's a broken relationship. You know, I find that extremely interesting, yet then there's the thriller element and then almost horror element to it, which is something that I've done in my kind of genre work before. So I felt very at home with it, and it was a story that I thought I could tell.
Well, it was a very intense 18 days, but hugely... Well, Kath Ward is she's a fantastically stubborn character. She's proud. She's living on the family farm. They've been there for generations. And she's met the gorgeous now Matthew. And they've been married for a long time. They don't have any kids. So there's nobody to carry on the farm, which is just costing them a lot of money, and they're in bad debt. And she's very reluctant to abandon this place that she loves so much. And she would, I reckon, she'd stick it out till the absolute bitter end if if Matthew and herself hadn't encountered this shepherd character who gives them the opportunity to start again, to start a new life elsewhere. But she's pulling against that idea. She's resisting it all the time.
There's an underlying thing at the start you can see.
Yeah, Matthew is her husband, and he didn't come up on a farm. He married into this farm. This is her home place, so he hasn't the same attachment maybe that she would have to it. So it was more likely him that got this shepherd character involved in the whole thing. So I don't think he was very good at being a farmer. I don't know, because he wasn't growing up as a farmer, I think, and because he'd worked in England and one thing and another. So then he met Kath, and they had this. At the start of the film, you think there's somewhat distance, but that's probably because of all the scenario, the things that have happened with the lack of money and the whole desperation of everything. But I don't think he's very good at much things, because he when he goes to sell the cattle and all, he can't get the right money. When he's shooting at things, he always misses, and the marriage thing. But the one thing John talked to us about it. He says there's a love story. There's a lovely underlying love story going on with them. At the start, you see this sort of a distance between them, but then they've worked really well together throughout this whole thing. Even when they're not in the scene together, you know, if he's outside and she's inside, they're working away single-handedly, but they're also concerned about the other. You know, and so there's that sort of telepathic love thing that's, you know, they're connected.
Referred to as culture noir in this kind of sense.
Visually, I mean, I wanted to go with something quite gritty. So I was using things like Children of Men, No Country for Old Men, that kind of stuff, because to me, the story gets darker, and while that happens, it actually turns from day into night in the film. So I wanted to get this kind of horrible kind of feel to it. So I was using old fluorescent lights and things like that. It was mostly about the lighting, practical lights in the sets as well. So everything is all coloured inside the house. There's red lights and greens and things like that, which is all sort of colours of the earth. Because to me, the house and the location is another character. It's the thing that they are holding on to for dear life. So I wanted to incorporate that. So yeah, anything that had the kind of rich, dark, kind of grimy feel to it was the kind of thing I was sort of basing my ideas on to start.
Well, I think the beauty of this project as well was that, you know, such a small cast, and we were all one location, and the crew, we were all basically living in this muddy farmhouse outside, in the middle of nowhere outside Ballymena for 3 weeks, and it was all, you know, we were just, you got up, drove to Ballymena, worked all day, and we were all really part of a team, and all got to know each other very fast, very well, because you had to, sharing your portaloos together and everything. And it actually felt, I'm used to that feeling that you get with a cast in theatre, and because there wasn't so much stop-starting, like we were on all the time.
You're stuck in the one place together, and you know, and especially with these micro-budget things, you know, everybody's working beyond their limit. You know, they're really pushing themselves hard and working all because they love what they do. You know, everybody's there because they love making film and telling the stories. So it's there's nobody there going, oh, it's just a job. You know what I mean? Oh, God, it's finishing time. There's none of that. It's just everybody loves what they're doing. There's no grumpy faces anywhere. Everybody's happy.
No, and it was cold and it was hot.
Oh yeah, it was fine.
You know, but no complaining. It was.
But we had a great super sir, hadn't we?
We did.
Yeah, so that was our heating system.
Yeah, you had to give it a kick now and then, but you know.
Getting into Galway was such a huge moment. Now, it ended up being 10 years to the very weekend that my first ever short played in Galway, and then my first feature was played in Galway. We finished the cut of the film on the Monday, and it was screening in Galway on the Saturday. I mean, that's how close it was. Yellow Moon did a fantastic job, sort of pulling us out a hole, literally. And the screening in Galway was brilliant. I mean, the crowd couldn't have reacted better.
Galway's a great festival anyway, and it was great that we won the best first feature for John. Like, so that was a great start, a good kickstart with it. To be home here for me, it's great because all my family's here tonight, so it's all nice that they can come, and so it's going to be interesting to see what their reaction to it at all. So it's always nice to be in the hometown where you're filming. It's really nice, like, you know.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. I'm delighted it's in the Strand, which
yeah,
haven't been to for a long time now, but yeah, just thrilled to be part of Belfast Film Festival.
Yeah. My mum used to go to the Strand when she was young.
My mother did too, Nigel.
So she's coming tonight to see me in it. There you are. So that's a treat for me anyway. Yeah.
You know, although I'm from Derry, I've lived more of my life in Belfast, and this is where my career has been. So bringing it to Belfast and the Belfast Film Festival, all my shorts have pretty much played Belfast as well over all the years. It's always been my home festival to an extent, and now having, you know, the honour to have it shown in the Strand Arts, which is somewhere where every time I have cast and crews for the screenings for my shorts, that's where we go to. It's, you know, the cinema goer cinema, the way I look at it. It's the people who love film, love the Strand Arts, and, you know, having it screened there tonight is a huge honour, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of familiar faces there.
It's such a great building, and of course a lot of the crew are from here, so that'll be nice to run into some familiar faces as well, hopefully, and new faces. I mean,
it's the place that all the filmmakers go to, and it's always been like that, and I say it'll probably continue like that. I wouldn't be surprised. It's such a beautiful place. You can feel the history as you walk in through those doors. I mean, all the art deco everywhere, and the fact that, you know, the screens have the curtains around and everything. It is a old style cinematic experience. It feels like you're playing somewhere special, and to have my first feature on those screens tonight, you know, it's going to be fantastic.
So that's my interviews with some of the cast and crew of Lie of the Land. I got the pleasure of hosting the Q&A at Strand Arts Centre, so I'm going to be slightly biased here and say I have to admit I did really enjoy this film. I mean, I am a fan of kind of seeing Irish talent on the big screen, especially when it's showcased. I know it's done really well at the Galway Film Fest. It's award-winning Irish feature. We had Margaret McGoldrick, one of the producers, on a couple of weeks ago when we were previewing the Belfast Film Festival. So now we have the film clocking in about an hour and 20 minutes. I've dubbed this kind of a continuation of the Colchi Noir, kind of the farm invasion movies. We've seen a few of them. You know, I have a man crush on Nigel O'Neill. I know Nigel. And I enjoyed this, I have to say. So I'm going to come to you first, Adam. For you, what do you think of Lie of the Land?
It is great to see Northern Irish talent on the big screen, and like you say, Nigel O'Neill has been in some great films recently. There was The Boys from County Hell, and also he is a big handsome man. What's happening, Nigel? The film itself I enjoyed. I think there is, you know, it tells a tale that kind of is Straw Dogs inspired at times, and, you know, like it is Colchi Noir. You get those same feelings. There's a coziness to having a story set in the countryside in Northern Ireland, and hopefully people worldwide can feel that energy. It's, you know, there's a rural closeness, but also that fear of being isolated out in the middle of nowhere, where somebody can come and do terrible things and nobody would know about it. But the movie itself is pretty good. I think a lot of older generation people would enjoy it. Like, I can imagine my mum and dad sitting down to watch this on a Friday night and highly enjoying it. But yeah, it's good. It's a good film.
I mean, it does dabble. You've mentioned Straw Dogs. It does kind of dabble in inflected horror elements in kind of looking at that genre, but doesn't really jump too welly's feet into the field. It does kind of sit back a little. I will say, visually, I think some great kind of cinematography, some nice score. I mean, the track, which went out of my head from the name of the band, went out of my head, as I say now. Great closing track for the closing credits. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's not long. We're talking earlier on about Marvel movies as they get longer and longer. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Martin Scorsese's latest feature, which is over 3.5 hours long. It didn't outstay its welcome. I do think, if I'm honest, as I've mentioned to you, Adam, before we started, it does feel like an idea for a short that has been stretched to a full-time feature runtime, but it didn't outstay its welcome. Claire, what about you?
I actually loved it, and I really like the term culty noir. I've never heard that before. That's so cool. I adored it. It hooked me from the get-go. I thought the characters were incredible. The cinematography was really good, and just that level of suspense the whole way through. The score, like it just kept you really hooked. I just really enjoyed it. It was the perfect film length as well. Like, I think it was 1 hour, like 15, 20. Had me hooked. I didn't know what was going to happen at some stages, and I was just ready to go with the ride. Really, really enjoyed it.
I'm going to come back to you, Adam, because I really believed the relationship between Nigel O'Neill's character and Ali White. You know, the fact that they're in this tense situation, things are going bad to worse, they're still kind of bickering with each other. It's that sense of a couple that have been together for a long time, and I think that is what really makes the film work, is the strength of its two leads and the believability that they're a couple that have been together for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's the dynamic of having them husband and wife is that there is a built-in trust between the two. So even when things do start to become tense and you fear for each other's lives, they kind of have a silent conversation going on with each other throughout the scenes. So whenever, you know, like the bad guy, I don't want to spoil it, but whenever the bad guy is maybe trying to screw them over in some sort of way, they can share a look to let you know that, oh, they have it sorted because they've been together for so long that they know each other so well what to do.
Yeah, show me, don't tell me. Claire, you know, we're going to move on. Was that something that worked for you, that dynamic between our two leads?
I absolutely loved it. It was just culty's kicking ass. It was amazing. I want to see more of this. Culty core.
There we go. On that note, I mean, if any local filmmakers, Adam, you're one, you know, make it happen for Claire. You know, we have to kind of work on this kind of particular genre, know what works well for our audience, and particularly Claire. But with that, we're going to move on to something completely different as we continue our Powell and Pressburger retrospective.
The Red Shoes, daring the original musical that captures all the glamour of the south of France in exquisite technicolor, blending compelling beauty and high drama with a love story of sheer enchantment, assembling a cast of international stars to endow an enthralling film with their rich vitality, and making the outstanding debut of this or any other year, a lovely red-headed girl graced with all the talents, Moira Shearer.
So that's a look at Powell and Pressburger's 1948 bona fide classic, The Red Shoes. I'm not sure how many years this show has been going on NvTv. I don't really know how we've got that far without talking about this film. Michael Powell and Ermeric Pressburger, I mean, two fantastic filmmakers. Last week we were talking about A Matter of Life and Death. Here we have another bona fide classic. As I say, it's back on cinemas. I think, Adam, you were saying it's going to be at the QFT from December as part of this series. So this is a film, you can see the influences it's had upon modern cinema. Claire, you reminded me as we came in that this is Martin Scorsese's favourite film, one of, if not his exact bona fide favourite film. How many times can I say bona fide in one sentence? I don't know, but a film like The Red Shoes deserves it. This tale of obsession and separating art from the artist. You know, I love this. Moira Shearer is absolutely fantastic in the central role. Adam, is this film you had seen before we asked you to watch it for the show, or was this a first viewing for you?
It was a first viewing, but it was always one of those ones that, like, because Martin Scorsese had talked it up and other films had talked it up, I had wanted to watch and it was on my list. So whenever asked me to watch it, I was like, oh, finally I can watch it. Blown away, just incredible film. Just from the opening titles, completely gorgeous Technicolor film, incredible. When it gets to the actual section of the Red Shoes dance, you can see Powell and Pressburger using a lot of German expressionism from the 20s. And like you said, the influences on people, you can see a lot in Tim Burton's work. You can see, from what I was watching, the Fellini even takes a lot in 8.5 with the director working on something. There's also like a kind of, I'd imagine Bob Fosse was a big fan of this movie, not just because of the dance, but because of like all that jazz. Like there's an artist that is trying to separate the art from the artist. But the movie as a whole is brilliant. Maybe a touch too long. I did find myself towards the end being like, I could wrap this up, but that's maybe the 21st century brain rot I have from watching TikTok all day. But I did love it, and like I said, I haven't watched any Powell and Pressburger movies, but I'll definitely be seeking out the rest.
I would definitely recommend seeking out a few more. If you haven't seen A Matter of Life and Death, definitely check it out. We were glowing in our chat about it last week. Now, Claire, the last time, I think, one of the last times we had you on, you reviewed The Thing from Another Planet, an old film, an older sci-fi classic. You have said, and you said to me as we sat down to record this week, you're not a fan of fantasy, you're not a fan of sci-fi. So the last time you didn't enjoy your experience of watching an older film, how did you find your experience with The Red Shoes?
So I'm not going to lie, originally it was a bit of a slow burn for me. I do remember messaging Adam saying, have you watched this film yet? And so it did take me a wee while to get into it, but then once I got into it, I really, really enjoyed it. It did feel like a mix between fantasy and reality the whole way through. You can definitely see, like, Baz Luhrmann's one of my favourite filmmakers, and you can really see the influences in Moulin Rouge from that film, like the bright colours, the movement, and just that passion in the storytelling as well. Same with, like you'd mentioned, Black Swan. Like, you can really see the influences in it. I enjoyed it. It's one of those films that you definitely need to watch in the cinema rather than at home. There's so many distractions at home, and that film deserves your full attention with the colour and everything that's going on. Also, I'm very surprised that they haven't remade it.
Well, I know there's been a couple of kind of attempts. I know it's been on the stage, it's kind of been taken as well from the big screen. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess there's certain films that you don't need to remake. And as you said, Claire, I mean, it deserves to be seen on the big screen. We have the opportunity. That's a great idea behind these BFI seasons. It's been lovely restored. It's a 4K restoration. And I think, Adam, as you said, it's going to be in December at the QFT. So here we have our second retrospective within the Powell and Pressburger season. If you didn't see last week's episode, viewers, why did you not check in? But look, that is us out of time. All that's left for me to do now is thank my two guests here this evening. But before we do that, let's have a look at what we'll be reviewing next week.
Mark, what do you do?
I work in a film studio. I hope to be a director very soon.
What's going on here?
Murder.
All this filming isn't healthy.
Captain Marvel, the Annihilator. You took everything from me. And now I'm returning the favor.
What is happening to me?
So that's a look at the films we'll be discussing. Peeping Tom and the Marvels. We've already mentioned the Marvels a little bit in this show. I don't know, Adam, have you seen Peeping Tom?
I haven't, but I shall be peeping it out.
There we go. That's for next week. Tune in to see what we think, and you guys can tune in as well to see what our guests think of that film. But that's all we have time for. So all that's left for me to do now this evening is thank my two guests. So thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks very much, Claire.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, until then, goodbye.